Hi, this is Darren from SimNation. Just doing a quick recap video for WWPF, and by quick, I mean quick. So someone asked me a question about Draft Day Sports Pro Football 2023 in the WWPF, which is SimNation's main Draft Day Sports Pro Football League. Someone asked me who I view as the best coaches in the league. You're kind of like asking me who my favorite child is. Um, I'll give you insight from my perspective. I'm not going to go into it in a lot of detail because I think that this league has a lot of great coaches, and um, it's a really just hard question to answer. And before anyone says anything, I'm not going to rate myself. For those of you close to me, you know that I'm not a person who taunts. I'm not a chess beetle. I'm not going to do it. Um, you can put me wherever you want in this list. But if we look at the coaches in the league, and I'm just going to do this real quick. I want to focus more on the recap than this, but I was asked to do this, so I'll do it. And before I go any further with this, my intention is not to make anybody mad, so don't get mad at me. I think who's at the top is easy. It's Oakland's Peter. You can't look at how many titles he's won, how dominant he's been, and not think that Peter's the best coach in this league. So that one's the easiest one on the list for me. Up next, I can't really differentiate these four coaches well, so I'm just going to say them. I think you have Invisible Witness at Carolina. Invisible has been to the championship game 3 years in a row. He's won the number one seed in the NFC 3 years in a row. He's only been in a league for 3 years. So I think Invisible definitely is in that next echelon right under Peter. I think you have DP at New York, who's in there. DP is always in the playoffs. New York Jets are always a hard team to play. He's done a phenomenal job with them. Now he doesn't have a ring. Peter and Invisible do, but DP always fields very tough teams. I think Shark is up there as well with New England. New England is a tough team to deal with. Shark is a tough coach to deal with. I have a long history with Shark that dates back to bowl-bound college football, where he was Ohio State and I was Maryland. He is just really good at these in general, so he's in that next rung. And then I think Seattle with Spoof is probably in there as well. Um, I think what Spoof's done with Seattle, and when I show you the standings, he's having a great season, but he's done a really good job in these leagues. Other coaches that just are worth calling out, and there's not a huge differentiation here, is I think Stewart. He's having a down season, but it doesn't change the fact that he is a really good coach. I think you have Rick at Minnesota, who's another really good coach. Barry has definitely shown up at LA for a while now and is someone I consider to be a really, really strong coach. Brian, same thing with Detroit. Prince is having a horrible season. Brian and Prince both really, but both of them are really quality coaches. Have to mention Templar, who's done a great job with Dallas over the years. Probably the person I'm most excited to see spring back is Bio Eagle. Bio Eagle's been in this league a long time. He is a coach I consider to be very good, but he's finally got a team, and that team is doing pretty well. And then Kevin is another guy to keep an eye on. The rest of the coaches are really good. It's just a matter of them being able to build the teams. And honestly, Oakland, New England, uh, New York, the Jets, Carolina, and Seattle are among the best teams in the league. So diving right in, so there were some upsets this week that kind of changed the way that things look. So we'll start in the NFC. I don't think much has changed here. I think it's really a race between Minnesota and Green Bay to see who will win. Bear in mind, all these teams have four divisional games left to play against each other. Rick with Minnesota, I think, is going to win the North, but Green Bay is going to make it hard on them. And then even Detroit and Chicago can still get into this race relatively easy. So this one will be one to watch, is just to see what happens out of the North, especially also from a wild card perspective, because there's not really strong differentiation, unlike in the AFC with the NFC wild card race. Carolina has lost 2 out of 3. They lost to Pittsburgh. And then this week they lost to Washington. That one's actually a very big shock. It's not something I would have expected, but largely it's because Udo's found his dynamic and he's got his team dialed in largely because of his quarterback Driscoll, but also because in that game Carolina threw like 3 interceptions, and that's abnormal for Zelensky. So they're still reeling a little bit after the Pittsburgh loss, which was a close loss. But I don't think anything changes in the South. They've already essentially clinched the South unless they start losing every game, and that's not going to happen. But and I still think that they're a pretty strong lock for the 1 or 2 seed. Right now, it looks like the 2 seed just because of what Seattle's doing. The Giants with Cable still having a really good season. He's still definitely very much in the driver's seat for the East. I think he's going to win the East. Dallas is going to push him hard. Again, because these teams have to play each other. Udo's on a 3-game winning streak. Congrats, Udo. I had written you off as kind of fighting for the first draft pick of the draft. But you're definitely on a winning streak, so great job. Beating Carolina is a really hard task. I think the number 1 seed in the West right now is Seattle. Spoof is just really beating people. Now, granted, the rest, he's got to play San Francisco twice, and I think he's got to play LA and Arizona once. So there's still a lot of things that can happen in the West, but I don't see a scenario where Seattle doesn't win the West. Barry right now I think is as close to a lock in the NFC as you can get for the wild card. And then it's just a matter of out of Green Bay, Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, and Detroit, who wants it more. Um, in the AFC, I think the playoff picture is becoming clear. I think the playoff structure is very cloudy. So right now, the West is going to be Oakland. There's no one that's going to catch them. I think Peter plays most of his games against the rest of the West Division, and then he gets Pittsburgh in Week 17. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. But I think right now Peter probably has the best schedule to be the number 1 seed. I think San Diego has a shot at the wild card, but they're essentially going to have to win out and hope something happens to Cleveland. Same thing with Baltimore with Kevin. Cleveland's in a pretty good spot for the playoffs right now. And considering that, I think they play Pittsburgh twice, Cincinnati once, and Baltimore once. Bio Eagle and Cleveland really are in great position for the playoffs, as long as they can keep that winning streak going. The East, New York and New England are largely in the playoffs already. It's just a matter of which one's going to be the division champion and which one's going to be the wild card. So first of all, New England has a Week 17 bye. So New England will play New York twice. If Shark can take one of those games or both of those games or New York loses more than once, I think New England can seize the East. That's a tall order because New York's playing well, but so is New England. I mean, New England has ended the undefeated streak of Pittsburgh, Oakland. Who else did they get? They've got quite a few people who were undefeated when they played them. I really wish it would stop doing that. So, sorry about that. So if you look at it, Pittsburgh was undefeated when they played them. They knocked Pittsburgh out. They took out the Raiders, who were undefeated at that time. So really, they are capable of winning these games. The only real loss is that the Miami loss kind of stings because otherwise they'd be neck and neck with the Jets, and that's a division loss, which stings even more. It's the reason why they kind of have to sweep the Jets, because if the Jets only lose one game to New England, the Jets hold the tiebreak. So, um, and then of course they lost to Spoof in Seattle, and Spoof has been doing what they've been doing. So, right now I think it's still the Jets, but that's not a knock against Shark. I just think that DP right now has them playing well, and bear in mind that I think that New York's only loss was to Seattle. So, if I remember correctly. And again, if you look at this, they've been winning pretty big. Now, you could argue that they haven't played the same quality of opponents that New England has, and that would be accurate. They haven't. New England's playing a one schedule, New York's playing a two schedule. So we'll see how this pans out, but whichever one of them loses is still in the playoffs and likely the top wild card seed. Miami, I don't see them getting into the race. Buffalo, same thing. Uh, Not sure who wants to win the South still. I think you're starting to see Jacksonville emerge as a team that wants to win it. The only way any of these teams is getting into the playoffs is to win the division. So right now it's Jacksonville. Bama still has a good shot at it, but he's going to have to start winning as well. I think Indianapolis and Houston are out of it. So Starfinder and Jacksonville, I think, have the inside shot. I talked about Pittsburgh. Uh, it's really still a battle in the North between Pittsburgh and Cleveland, only because Pittsburgh and Cleveland will face each other twice. And if Pittsburgh drops both of those, then Cleveland has a pretty good shot. I think, likewise, Baltimore can get back into this one as well, but they need for Cleveland to lose. And there's that potential. So Baltimore has a really good team under Kevin. But I think it's going to be a stretch for them to get into the playoffs at this point. Um, I think the biggest thing to kind of keep in mind as we move into the playoffs or move to the later part of the season is you got a couple stories unfolding. One is Ray Spriggs. Is his last season. He's had a great career in New York, and he's definitely lighting it up this season. Zelensky, for Zelensky, these stats are off a little bit. He's had a great career at Carolina as well. He's younger than Spriggs, though, but I think Spriggs is like 36 or 37. Watson is having a great season. I've trashed him a lot in the past when he was at Cleveland, but definitely Spoof's getting the most out of him. From a rookie perspective, Jesse Payne with Arizona, who's coached by Don Luckey, is having a great season. Marcus Witten is having a good season, but he's also throwing a lot of interceptions. Um, if they can bring that down, I think New York has a better chance. And as you can see, Watson and Spriggs are fighting it out for the passing touchdowns, with Tennant from Oakland right up there. And then passing rating, again, it's the same thing, Watson and Spriggs. The rushing title, this one's still pretty wide open, honestly. Lackey's in the lead. Has a decent margin over Hillman, but any of these other guys can jump right in there. It's by no means Lackey's. The receiving title, Wilmer Alvarez out of Baltimore is having a great season, but this one's still pretty much up in the air to see who will get it. Bobby Spencer, Ronald Mackey, Eric Herrera, the rookie David Bittner, all of them have a good chance of getting it. And then sacks wise, of course, the big mega trade that happened last week was Dustin Souza going to Oakland from Baltimore. Uh, Peter's making the most of that trade. Candelaria has pretty much led the league in sacks pretty much most of the season, but as you can see, you have Odin and Sandoval there as well. Nice to see Ashbury, who's a free safety, up there. And then interception wise, hasn't really changed. It's still two Panthers in Henderson and Sherman, and arguably the best corner in the league in total. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. I think a lot of people would be pulling for the Jets because it's Briggs' potential last season. And of the people really in the race, DP hasn't won a title. Neither has Shark for that matter. So both of them would be pulling, whereas you have Pittsburgh and you have Oakland, who have won titles. Carolina's won a title. Spoof has not. So if you're pulling for someone who hasn't won one, Spoof at Seattle is a good logical pick. So is Minnesota with Rick. But by the time we have the next video, we should have a pretty clear idea of who's doing what in the playoffs and who's going to the playoffs. If you're interested in joining, we still have some teams open. Not as many great teams, but Chicago's open. They're a good team. Atlanta's open. New Orleans. If you want to get a top pick, Philadelphia is a great team to take. They're open. And then you have San Diego and Kansas City who are both open, as well as Cincinnati. But those are teams that you would have a chance of getting. Tampa Bay is now closed. We have a new coach still who's getting his feet under him. But it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Hopefully you like this video. If you have any questions, let me know. And what I'll just say is this is a great league to join. There's a lot of drama that's still to be played out. And we'll see how the really, really close AFC race pans out. Where you have four teams all vying for those top two seeds. And then in the NFC, you really have a more wide open wild card race, and you still have some drama around the number one and number two seed. Well, Minnesota, Carolina. You can probably put New York still in there, and Seattle all fighting for it. So have a great night. Talk to you later.